So about a month ago, we talked about this super woke Amazon show called My Lady Jane. And there's this one still from the show that went super viral where Jane is standing in front of the person who plays the King of England in the show.
I want to buy this wheelchair.
He happens to be gay, black, and disabled in the show, which is the woke trifecta. And our video about that did numbers because people didn't know what this came from. We found out and we did investigation into it. And now we found out that after one season of the show, it has been canceled by Amazon. So she will be missed.
Look,
you actually, I think when we were discussing it, you said you predicted it would last at least,
seasons.
Like 3 seasons or more,
because
it does so well with like the woke female audience.
I should have done more. I should have thought harder about it. So if this had gone to a network, I think it would have done better. Interview with the Vampires going into season 2 or just finished season 2 and it's like greenlit already for season 3. If they would have washed this out, made it more PG-13 and put it on network TV, maybe it would have done better. I'm sorry, not network, but like cable, like AMC.
Sure. But like what people are missing with all of this discussion of shows getting canceled after 1 to 2 seasons is that, the network TV model allowed a lot of shows to have grace or time
because they actually still made money.
Find their own voice because they still made money rather than being a complete drain on the streaming service. But that's not a point that is going to resonate with a bunch of angry people on Twitter.
Because they were mad, I decided to, everyone was dunking on them. Because look, you deserve to be dunked on if you think the Acolyte is comparable to Breaking Bad or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You are. You deserve to be mocked. But rather than mock them, I decided to commiserate. I decided to be like, look, you're not the first person on the planet who's ever had a show they liked get canceled before it had time to, as you would say, blossom. So I have listed a bunch of shows for them that I wish had gotten more than 1 or 2 seasons. And frankly, I think we should all be able to come together and rejoice around the fact that we have a shared life experience now. You don't always get what you want. And if I wanted to take their perspective on things, I could be like, look, this is racist. It's almost all white men who led these shows. I think these networks have a problem with white men.
Do you think that this is an example of get woke, go broke? Because we've debated whether that's a true statement in the past. Is this an example of it?
Somebody says no Firefly. My friend Firefly is right there. You're not reading the list. That's a very good question. It was... I just don't know if I buy that anymore. Like, I feel like so much of this stuff gets subsidized for longer than a season, but maybe that is going to be the case now. Like, look, we're out of 2020. Like, there isn't as much money to go around. The strike last year, they're looking to cut costs. Inflation is up. The cost of making a TV show is much higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
Maybe they can't afford to have these shows just sit there with crappy viewership.
Well, it is Amazon at the end of the day, so they're going to be fine.
Oh, somebody said Marco Polo. I should have added.
Amazon is not going to go broke because they...
No.
Like one tentacle of their empire
made
one show that didn't do well in viewership numbers. Like they're going to be fine.
If the idea here is that Amazon is going to go broke, no. Absolutely not.
Maybe the individuals who were involved in the show.
Get woke, get subsidized.
I love that this is going on at the same time as the Acolyte cancellation cope, because I'm looking at some of the tweets right now. One person said, at Amazon Prime, when we catch you, why can't we have anything good? This show has everything: drama, romance, fantasy, comedy, gorgeous costumes, and protagonists that have insane chemistry. My Lady Jane deserved better.
I love it when people said the same things, like, how could you cancel the Acolyte? The writing was superb. And the top comment just said, y'all just be lying.
This one piece from Forbes said, ratings and money always dictate these decisions, but I wish streamers like Amazon had something else. Vision and the courage to give something new the space and time it needs to grow. I truly believe that My Lady Jane would have continued to build a loyal and passionate audience After all, its fans are loyal already. Now, all the charm and effort that made this series so great has been cut short.
I mean, it's possibly true. Like, here's something that I actually do believe is true. I believe that there is a better chance that My Lady Jane found an audience than The Acolyte. Mm-hmm. I do. I believe that the audience around Star Wars is fairly set, and that people aren't touristing their way into random Star Wars shows because there's so much that comes with the idea of lore behind it that
it's too intimidating.
Somebody passing by and just finding it and liking it, there's too much wink and nod.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe that if you had given both shows 2 or 3 years, My Lady Jane had a better chance of finding an audience and costing way less.
Can you imagine watching The Acolyte as your first, introduction into anything Star Wars, and then you just see like Plagueis in that one scene and you're like, what the fuck? There was just so much in it that was just like very self-referential, but also not respecting anything that it was referencing, and not respecting any of the people that they were winking and nodding to.
Well, that's the problem. That's what I mean when I say that, like, it would be easier for My Lady Jane to find an audience because you don't have to worry about endless wink and nod. In fact, my point a lot of the times is that the best adaptations, continuations, sequels, or remakes don't wink and nod as much. So if on this list I have Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and they wink and nod very little at like the classic parts of Terminator, right? So there's a scene in like the first or second episode where Summer Glau's character pulls up and says, "Come with me if you want to live." And that's the only heavy-handed moment that I can feel, other than it just operating on the premise of Terminators and time travel, where it winks and nods at the film heavily. Like, there's still callbacks to it, but it's so subtle that somebody who's just watching doesn't feel like they're missing something by watching it. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think My Lady Jane was better off. But like right now, that show Interview with the Vampire is doing way better than I thought that was going to crash and burn in season 1.
Yeah, sometimes the viewership is high, but you don't see anyone talking about it. And then in the case of The Acolyte, everyone's talking about it on Twitter and on YouTube. But the commentary doesn't match up to the amount of people actually putting in the effort to watch it. And what these people don't seem to understand is the amount of people watching it is the only thing that matters to Amazon or to any of these streaming platforms. Like, they pointed out, but it got a 94% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Doesn't matter.
Why would Amazon cancel it? That doesn't translate to
the thing
money.
Is you almost can't blame them for not knowing, because these companies spend so much money to say, like, we're doing this for this virtuous reason.
Yeah.
So it just means that they're not, here, I'm going to use their word, media literate. Their media literacy is bad. Their corporate literacy is bad. And they don't understand that when they say that they're doing it for virtuous reasons, when they say that they're making shows for social justice reasons, no. They believe erroneously that these social justice themes will sell their product, which it won't.
They're also trying to drum up sympathy for the cast and crew who are now out of work. So they said someone needs to start a petition for My Lady Jane. That's one of the best shows on Prime Video. The cast and crew deserve so much better. And there are all these people posting videos, they're posting the GIF of Cillian Murphy in Peaky Blinders where he's pointing the gun at his head. Like, you should not be suicidal over the end of an Amazon show.
No, and I mean, that's
Get a hold of yourself.
Like, I don't know what's worse, like hero worship of celebrities or hero worship of shows, right? My point by making this is, like, life is full of disappointment. Okay, mm-hmm. There are shows on this list that I really, really enjoyed. A couple of them I included as like a joke, like Mortal Kombat Conquest, which is only one season and it's so bad it's good. But like, there were shows on here that I believe had a lot more capability to go farther. Jeremiah specifically, Battle Creek specifically, Life specifically. All of these shows, the booth at the end, all of them had fantastic concepts and ideas that just didn't find their audience in the time period.
Wait, are they right that Buffy would have been canceled now?
No, I don't believe so.
No.
Oh, canceled now. If it was on network TV? If it was on streaming?
On streaming. If it were on streaming.
They're not fair comparisons. It's apples to oranges. It's like the X-Files did bad numbers in season 1, and bad numbers in 1993 meant like 23 million viewers because it was 1993 and nobody else had anything to do at night.
That's very true.
Like it was a different time period. Like you could make
we had more of a monoculture.
Oh, I did forget Dark. Oh my gosh, they're pointing out all the shows that I should have added on here. I made the mistake with like I included some of these shows only got 1 season, and
Someone
some
said
of them
Buffy was trash. Thank you.
No, some of these shows I included had 2 seasons, and some of them had 1. I tried to stick to that rule, but if I had adhered to 2 series, like got 2 seasons but deserved more to all of it, I would have added Dollhouse. I would have added Dark Angel because that got 2 seasons but needed a 3rd. There was a lot of them, and
well, you're just sometimes assuming that the season you never got would have been just as good.
Yeah, or better. Well,
and usually that's not true.
Like even Dark Angel, in my opinion, had a great first season, and season 2, a lot of people don't like it. So, like, what's to say that season 3 would have found its voice?
It's like when the ladies from Force of Light were talking about Stranger Things, and they were like, oh, I know like season 3 was like not as good, but you just have to get through that and then it gets really good. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't care enough to sit through all of that bullshit.
Well, no, what it usually is there's a baseline level of good for the bad seasons that people, what they don't realize is like, you don't realize those first seasons aren't as good as the seasons after, right? So you, by comparison, they say you got to get through the first 3 seasons and then it gets really good. Well, you're discounting the fact that the bad first 3 seasons are still better than average.
Sure.
Right? So there's a difference between somebody saying something has like awful season 1 through 3 and then it gets really good in season 4. That doesn't usually work. Usually it's just a baseline level, right? So Arrow had a really, really good first 2 seasons, a highly mediocre season 3 revolving around Ra's al Ghul. Season 4 with Damien Dark was atrocious and everybody hated it. And then season 5, when they brought in Prometheus, was good. And really good return to form. But none of them were as good as those first 2 seasons, right? So if it had been mediocre seasons 1 and 2, and then got good in 3 and 4, that would have been a different thing.
Yeah, usually it's season 5 for all of these shows that end up going long that it's the cursed season.
Well, think about, like, look, Scream had its own television show that went for several seasons. They tried to do an I Know What You Did Last Summer TV show last year that nobody watched, as far as I know.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
That happened?
Yep, they did that. Now they're making the movie. The Pretender, I see somebody mentioning The Pretender. The Pretender is on Amazon Prime and a lot of fun. It's what happens. I don't know if it's get woke, go broke. I think it's a poor comparison because the network television model that included ads in everything is very, very different. The closest you'd be able to do to find it now would be like if you watched a Roku channel original that has commercials built into it, or a Freevee original. But even Freevee originals are free without ads if you have Amazon Prime.
Well, people got so accustomed to, in the age of streaming, not having to watch ads, and now they're not going to accept going back to the old way.
I got into a discussion with somebody the other day. Roku has mastered this. The commercial model on Roku is perfect for somebody like me who's just ADHD enough where I can tune out for the length of that commercial, even if there's several of them an episode. Some of these
20 from Pop Culture Junkie. He said, be aware that some shows that were doing bad on network TV got an additional season because the network had poor development in the pipeline.
Well, like, look, they took Designated Survivor off of CBS and then dumped it onto to Netflix. Netflix bought it. And I don't think it ever ended up getting any better. At least from what I understand, it got worse once it went to Netflix. A better example would have been Longmire, which was on A&E, and then it got bought by another network, and then canceled there, and then eventually went to Netflix, where it found a home and had a really good 6 seasons. But that's a rare example of a success in that regard.
And wasn't that during like the transitional period?
2012.
Anyway,
yeah,
right.
Like you were right in the middle of Netflix had built the capital to start buying stuff up before that they started making, and then their Netflix originals came a little bit after that, or more prominently featured after that. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.